All right, so moving on to the next day, we're going to pivot over here to the world of MMA inside the UFC world, and I'll be sharing my UFC mid-year awards. So the calendar year, we're heading to the back end of 2025. The year would end today. These would be my UFC yearly awards. So for male fighter of the year in the calendar year 2025 at this particular point, that award will go to Merab. Now, I do believe that Merab is deserving of being the 2025 Male Fighter of the Year in the UFC. I mean, he has had a big year in the calendar year 2025 with 2 successful title defenses at the bantamweight division, is rightfully claiming his spot to be viewed as the best bantamweight fighter of all time. Look at his resume. But he's 2-0 this year. It's been impressive in the calendar year 2025. 2 successful title defenses against Umar, who was undefeated in his MMA career up until that particular point when he fought Merab in February. In the beginning of the year, that was a really good bantamweight championship fight that we've seen for 5 championship rounds. Merab found a way to weather the storm and pulled away in the second half to successfully retain the bantamweight title. Then, in the rematch that he had against Sean O'Malley, if you thought his first performance was special, that second performance was a true belt-to-ass performance and became the only man in Sean O'Malley's career to make Sean O'Malley submit in the middle of the octagon. Merab just toyed with Sean O'Malley, had his way with him, was throwing him around like a rag doll in the octagon. 2 successful title defenses from Merab, and has claimed his spot to be a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC. And his calendar year isn't over yet. He has a chance to go 3-0 this year with 3 successful title defenses, and when he fights Corey Sandhagen by the end of 2025. So if Merab could go 3-0 with 3 successful title defenses with 3 big names at the bantamweight division, how could you not say he's not deserving to be recognized as the 2025 Male Fighter of the Year? It's been his year, and I think he's deserving to be the Male Fighter of the Year thus far. Now, looking at Female Fighter of the Year, Woman Fighter of the Year, that would have to go to Kayla Harrison. I think Kayla Harrison is deserving to be recognized as the woman fighter, the female fighter of the year in the UFC. It's been a long time coming for Kayla Harrison to be rightfully crowned as the bantamweight champion. And her rise to the top in the MMA started all the way back in her Olympic days in 2012 and 2016, competing in the Summer Olympics, where she won gold medals in judo, made her MMA debut in 2018 with the PFL, won 2 titles in her first 2 years there in the organization. Fast forward to how she did in 2024, went 2-0 in the UFC. Then this year in 2025, when she finally got her name called and it was her time to take the ball and run with it, she did that when she stepped in the octagon, defeated Juliana Pena by really dominating fashion, took the bantamweight title from her, made Juliana Pena submit in the second round to win the bantamweight title. I think this has been her year to be recognized as the female fighter of the year thus far in the UFC. And then she had that big showdown with Amanda Nunes, which you got to be special enough to bring a fighter out of retirement, Amanda Nunes, who, in my opinion, is the greatest female fighter to ever participate in the UFC. You got to be special. You got to be a special attraction, a special fighter, a special champion to bring out an all-time great to fight. And we're going to see that big money fight very soon between Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes. But she's had one hell of a 2025. She deserves to be recognized as the female fighter of the year thus far. Now, fight of the year. Fight of the year would have to go to Brandon Royval and Joshua Van. Now, easily, this is the fight of the year in 2025, the fight that took place at UFC 317 between Brandon Royval and Joshua Van. Now, they put on a huge war, and this was probably one of the best fights that I've ever seen at the featherweight division. For what these fighters did on the undercard of the UFC 317 event, Brandon Royval and Joshua Van, they went to war with each other for those 3 rounds. And I wish that was a 5-round fight, because someone probably would have got knocked out if that went to 5 rounds. But Styles makes fights in that octagon. Both fighters were standing in the pocket, exchanging bombs and exchanging blows. They exchanged some huge significant strikes. There were some really significant leg strikes that were landing too, but there was plenty of counter shots, hooks, stiff leg kicks. I mean, it was fast-paced throughout the whole entire fight for the 15 minutes that the fight lasted. But Joshua Van got the nod due to pulling away in the 3rd round, landing the huge significant strikes and landed the huge significant drop I said drop, the huge significant knockdown in the third round, in the final seconds of the fight. But and even if you guys remember, Joshua Van actually fought a few weeks prior to that and actually took on Brandon Royval, who was the #1 ranked contender at the featherweight division, on a 2 to 3 weeks notice, which makes it even more crazier for Joshua Van, who at the time was the 12th ranked contender at the featherweight division. Clearly climbed up after that. He's going to get a title shot against Alexandria Pantoja next for the featherweight title. But man, definitely that was the fight of the year, hands down. Great instant classic between Brandon Royval and Joshua Van at the featherweight division. KO of the year obviously would have to go to Ilia Topuria knocking out Charles Oliveira. That beautiful right hand followed up with the left hook that Ilia Topuria knocked out Charles Oliveira with, easily the knockout of the years thus far. And in the championship fight, 5-round championship fight, this happened in the first round. And it seemed like these fighters are just getting warmed up, just getting started. But the power that Ilia Topuria has possessed, knocking out a legend like Charles Oliveira, who's one of the greatest lightweight fighters that the UFC has ever seen. I mean, the way he set it up, going landing a body shot, then retreating off the back foot, then landing the right hand, followed with the left hook. Oh my goodness. Charles Oliveira was out cold before his head even bounced and dribbled off the canvas. And Ilia Topuria did that in his debut at the lightweight division against an all-time great at that division in Charles Oliveira. That just shows that the power has always been there. Going from 144 at the featherweight division, going all the way up to lightweight. So Ilia Topuria showed that he is a special fighter. Knocked out 3 legends in a row, and Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and Charles Oliveira. Then did it like this in the first round this summer a few months ago. Clearly KO of the year, in my opinion, that Ilia Topuria landed on Charles Oliveira. Best moment of the year, this would be my final mid-year award. I would have to be that moment between Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett. Now, honestly, following Ilia Topuria's title win against Charles Oliveira, he was doing the interview, of course, with Joe Rogan, and they brought in Paddy Pimblett to the octagon for the face-off. Now, nobody really expected that. But even Dana White wasn't really happy that face-off even happened. He said it shouldn't even happen. But shout out to Joe Rogan for letting us see that moment between two fighters that truly have bad blood with each other. The bad blood between each other definitely boiled over when these fighters got a microphone to talk into with each other, exchanging some words, some really inappropriate words that they said to each other. I mean, it was an unexpected face-off with these fighters. That was a great sequence of trash talk. And truly, the pushing and shoving and the trash talk, it really made me want that fight next at lightweight for Ilia Topuria's first title defense against Paddy Pimblett. When do you ever see the champion go after a challenger? It's rare you see that in combat sports. But Ilia Topuria clearly wanted to smoke with Paddy Pimblett. Now, obviously, that fight most likely won't happen next because Paddy Pimblett needs more significant wins at this lightweight division. His only marquee win thus far was against Michael Chandler. You need more than that. And he's currently the 7th ranked contender at the lightweight division. So definitely he's going to need some more work. I would love to see this fight next, but it'd probably be someone like Justin Gaethje, who gets a title shot next to fight Ilia Topuria next for the lightweight title. So most likely going to be unlikely. But if I had the hot hand, I would definitely book Ilia Topuria versus Paddy Pimblett for a lightweight title next, based off of how well they would be able to build up the fight and how good the fight would be as long as it can last for. But I think that's the best moment of the year thus far. But those are my UFC mid-year awards that I would give out to these respective fighters right now in the UFC.